Crowds gathered today to say goodbye to a fallen officer, Jonathan de Guzman.
This was sort of the end of the road.
Some tenants may end up homeless as they are forced to leave an unpermitted RV park in Otay, Mesa.
We are 30 miles from the nearest gas station if our power goes out.
And born out of necessity, a self-sustaining microgrid in the harsh desert environment in East San Diego County could change how power is delivered in the future. KPBS Evening Edition starts right now. Good evening. Thanks for joining us. I'm Ebony Monet. Crowds of officers and family and supporters pack a church in Bonita today to honor the life of a San Diego police officer killed last week. KPBS reporter Steve Walsh was there.
Right in front of Corpus Christi Catholic Church, where they held the funeral mass today for Officer Jonathan J.D. de Guzman, who was killed in the line of duty Thursday in San Diego. De Guzman was killed during a traffic stop. His partner, Officer Wade Irwin, was critically injured but is expected to recover. The small church seats 1,200. Today it was packed with mourners, including police officers from around the country. They came from as far away as Colorado, Chicago, and New York City. Jay Joaquin of Otay Mesa didn't know either officer. Still, he was one of a few dozen people who stood quietly outside the service.
It's important to show our support to the police force that every day they have actually staked their lives to protect the citizens and the community.
The fallen officer leaves behind a wife and two small children. San Diego Police Chief Shelley Zimmerman spoke along with de Guzman's pastor.
Whatever faith tradition we're coming from, that it's our faith that will help us be able to overcome this loss, this sadness in our community.
This is the smaller of two ceremonies held in honor of Officer de Guzman. A larger ceremony is expected to be held tomorrow at the Shadow Mountain Community Church, where among the attendees will be Governor Jerry Brown. From the Corpus Christi Catholic Church in Bonita, Steve Walsh, KPBS News.
Today, the revived plan to remove cars from the center of Balboa Park has cleared its first hurdle. A San Diego City Council committee approved spending $1 million to complete planning. It includes building a bypass bridge and a parking garage behind the Spreckles Oregon Pavilion and making more of the park off limits to cars. The project was first approved by the council 4 years ago, but it was overturned by a judge. The city appealed and the plan was reintroduced by Mayor Kevin Faulkner. To run an RV park in San Diego County, you need a permit. Our media partner, iNewsSource, found that an elected official in San Diego is running an RV park east of Otay Mesa without one. And dozens of families paying rent to live there don't have access to electricity or sewage disposal. Megan Wood joins us with more on the situation. Megan, what did you find out?
Well, the 10-acre property just outside of Otay Mesa is owned by Melvin Ingalls. He's the vice chair of the Otay Mesa Planning Board, which means along with other members, he advises the San Diego City Council and Planning Commission on land use issues. According to one couple living on the property, Paul and Avelia Rucobo, Ingalls began renting to them in 1995, and now the property is divided into dozens of dirt lots. Rental agreements show the families pay on average $370 a month rent. They live in RVs and mobile homes where they have to furnish their own electricity with generators or wind power and dispose of their own sewage.
So, Megan, how was Ingalls able to do this for so long?
Well, I spoke with the chairman of the planning group, Rob Hickson. He said he wasn't aware of the RV park run by Ingalls. He also said the Otay Mesa Planning Board is under the city's jurisdiction, and Ingalls RV Park is on county property. But Ingalls has received 4 warnings and citations from the county over the last 3 years for the unlawful land use. In response, Ingalls began a pre-application for a major use permit in 2014. Because the process takes 1 to 3 years to complete, the county communications office said enforcement tends to ease up during that time. However, the application was never finished, so earlier this year, the county ordered him to vacate the tenants by September 30th. Ingalls issued every tenant an eviction notice on June 10th, but because many of the renters found the property while they were living on the streets, some expect they will have nowhere to go once the 60-day notice is up. One of those tenants is Larry LaPrue.
The renters are really freaked out and very, very worried that they're going to go from this situation, good and bad, to homelessness.
So you actually spoke to Ingalls. What did he have to say about this property?
Well, Ingalls said he knew many of the tenants were homeless before they moved in, and he thought he was being helpful by charging them low rent. He admitted that nothing on the property is permitted. Many of the tenants are seeking legal aid. Attorney Mark Whitman, who often represents tenants in eviction cases, said the residents may have the right to relocation expenses if they're willing to take their cases to court.
Thank you so much. Great work. iNews Source reporter Megan Wood.
Thank you.
A local study finds the TransPacific Partnership is good for San Diego business. This counters claims the international trade deal would hurt jobs. Today, we sat down with the U.S. Secretary of Commerce to discuss how the plan will impact the economy.
People don't really understand the deal. There's been a lot of rhetoric about trade, but there's very little understanding of the benefits to the American worker or the benefits to American business.
Commerce Secretary Penny Pritzker is responding to criticism of the largest regional trade agreement in history.
Nothing is easy when it comes to trade because it gets conflated and misunderstood. But we're working hard. The president is working very hard to get this done.
The deal would create free trade with the U.S. and 11 other Pacific Rim nations by lowering thousands of tariffs. Pritzker is at San Diego-based Taylor Guitars talking to business owners about how TPP will help them sell their American-made products in the Asia-Pacific region.
We do not have free access today to those markets. Most countries have pretty good access into the United States. This gives us a really big advantage.
TPP opponents have been very vocal this presidential election season. They argue it doesn't do enough to protect U.S. jobs or the environment. A UC San Diego study says TPP would benefit San Diego businesses. 97% of San Diego's exports already go to TPP countries.
It really makes the United States much more competitive because the rules that are within the Trans-Pacific Partnership are more consistent with the rules which American businesses live by.
President Obama says the deal is unlikely to pass before the election. The administration is hopeful it will pass during the lame duck session.
California consumer advocates are blasting oil refineries for padding their profits at the expense of the state's drivers. Consumer watchdogs say California drivers should be paying much lower prices at the pump because the wholesale price for fuel in the state is the lowest in the nation. The average price of a gallon of regular gas in California is hovering around $2.70. That's well above the national average of $2.11 a gallon. A small desert community in Southern California is shining a light on the future that could completely change how power is delivered to homes and businesses. An extreme environment helped forge a sustainable energy island. KPBS reporter Eric Anderson says lessons learned here could change the nature of what we call the power grid.
Borrego Springs sprawls across a mostly flat desert valley about 80 miles east of San Diego. That remote location is both an attraction and a challenge.
We are 50 miles from another community that has a big box store. We are 30 miles from the nearest gas station if our power goes out.
That's Linda Haddock, who's lived here about 10 years. She says daytime temperatures can languish above the century mark for long periods during the summer, Haddock says that creates a voracious appetite for power, an appetite that has, at times, pushed her monthly power bill over $1,000.
Our electric bills soar in the summertime. We live in the desert. Your temperatures, if it's going to be 120 outside, it's going to be 160 in your car, the ground's 180. It's not going to cool down that much at night.
Haddock lives in a gated resort community of manufactured homes. The electricity that feeds her appliances pulses through a single high-voltage power line that comes from San Diego. That San Diego gas and electric line climbs over a treacherous mountain range. In September 2013, a storm took out 19 SDG&E power poles, severing the town's electrical umbilical cord.
Lightning took them out. It wasn't anything anybody did. Lightning just took out the poles. That's when our monsoon season is. Stuff happens. And we were informed by SDG&E, by this outage, by this issue of trying to get to these poles, get us back up, that it was going to be 3 to 4 days.
An outage that long puts lives here at risk. Utility officials scrambled to get the power back on. Their attention quickly turned to a large solar farm on the edge of town. Rows of photovoltaic panels sit on brackets several feet off the ground. The solar trees fill the corner of the sun-splashed valley. Neil Bartek's hard hat shields his head from the midday desert sun.
This is a single-axis tracking solar field, and so the panels are actually tracking the movement of the sun. So right now, there's a motor that actually is turning all the panels to be optimally aligned with the sun.
The panels can generate enough electricity to turn on the lights in 26,000 homes. Work crews rerouted that power in 2013 to keep local lights on in Borrego Springs while the power lines were repaired. That was essentially the birth of the region's microgrid.
What the microgrid allows us to do is to have some resources sourced locally here so that if damage occurs to that line, we can use these local resources to power the community and increase its reliability.
But solar isn't the only key to developing a power island like this one. San Diego Gas and Electric added diesel generators to boost reliability, and engineers installed a power storage facility. Inside these short white trailers, air conditioners are always on. They keep racks of lithium-ion batteries cool. The utility's Hanan Eisenman says the batteries have a couple of jobs.
So what we do with batteries is we store that renewable energy during the day when the sun's out, and then we can release it into the grid in the evening times.
If a cloud moves over the solar farm during the day, the batteries make up for the dip in energy production. That keeps the flow of energy to either the town or the grid steady and predictable.
So we wanted to create a project where we could see how all of those new technologies coming onto the grid affect the grid, and how we can leverage those new technologies to create opportunities for our customers to be more sustainable, to be cleaner, and then also to provide greater reliability.
Eisenman says getting all the power supplies to work together is the key to success. He can see a future where this kind of technology can be located in more crowded places where the power grid is already pretty resilient. Tomorrow, we'll look at a microgrid that's working in the city of San Diego, and we'll consider the future of this emerging technology. Eric Anderson, KPBS News.
Supporters of an initiative to legalize recreational marijuana in California filed a lawsuit today, accusing opponents of including false and misleading language in the official ballot materials. The Yes on Proposition 64 committee is asking a judge to delete language that suggests the initiative will allow for advertising of pot on TV. Opposition leaders say they stand behind the ballot language. A major overhaul may be underway for California's 911 dispatch system. Dispatchers may soon respond to text messages and video footage sent from people's cell phones. That's if state lawmakers allocate funds to modernize the current 911 system. Lawmakers say the switch could cost the state up to $900 million.
Our 911 systems need to be able to take on a text 911 message and then be able to act on it, or a video. And how do our dispatchers deal with seeing a crime in progress versus hearing it on the phone? it brings up a whole new set of policies and procedures that we're going to need to deal with.
The new system will be tested in San Bernardino first. Officials say the city will implement it in the next 3 to 4 years. California water officials are working to regulate excessive groundwater drilling that's sinking the Joaquin Valley. A recent NASA report revealed the region was sinking by about 2 inches every month in 2015. Governor Brown signed a law 2 years ago that requires the development of groundwater management plans. State officials say they're working to stabilize groundwater resources by 2040.
In some parts of the state, wells have gone dry because groundwater tables have been pumped and there's no more water left.
Experts say the sinking land in San Joaquin Valley threatens buildings and other infrastructure in the process. Another warm, sunny day here in San Diego, but cooler, drier air is pushing in. Molly Cochran has tonight's weather report.
Well, we're still dealing with showers and some thunderstorms for the interior sections of the Southwest. Here's a look at our satellite and radar. Over the past 6 hours, just to the south of Las Vegas, getting hit hard with some showers that really aren't making much movement. And that's when we start to worry about some flash flooding issues. In addition, today we had significant flight delays in San Francisco due to the low cloud ceilings. At times, some of those flights were running over an hour and 20 minutes worth of delays. Now, notice off to the south, a few showers in the interior sections of California, but along the immediate coastline, it is pretty much smooth sailing for tonight. We'll have a little bit of an increase in cloud cover, overnight low of 67 degrees, but then we will clear out as we head into the end of the work week on Friday. Temperatures tonight in the mid-60s for Oceanside, Mount Laguna at 54, all expecting some cloud cover late, but we're not going to be looking at anything in the way of wet weather. So here's a closer look at Friday. We are watching some cooler air move into San Francisco as well as some clouds, but the interior section still getting hit hard with some monsoonal moisture. And by the time we head into next week, some of this wet weather could be associated from Earl, which is a tropical feature pushing into Mexico right now. So going to be very active for the Four Corners even as we head into next week with daily thunderstorms quite possible. Here's a look at the immediate coastline though. Clouds and sunshine for Friday, even into the upcoming weekend. Daytime highs in the upper 70s, and that's pretty close to where we should be at for this time of year. Overnight lows in the lower 60s. Then into Monday, some low clouds and some sun, mostly sunny into Tuesday with a temperature at 78. As we take a look farther inland, we'll watch those temperatures come up into the 80s, mid 80s for Friday and also Sunday with low clouds and some sunshine out by the afternoon. We'll feel a little bit more humid to kick off the work week. For the mountains, those temperatures stay in the lower 80s with plenty of bright sunshine into this weekend and into next week. Overnight lows in the upper 40s to lower 50s. And for the deserts, our daytime highs going to be into the triple digits. Lots of sunshine ahead through Saturday and Sunday, but those overnight lows will come back into the mid 60s. Looking at the sunshine to continue into the early half of this next week, both Monday and Tuesday, with our daytime high between 104 and 105. Molly Cochran, KPBS News.
Have stomach trouble? Associated Press reporter Kathy Matheson says try swallowing a robot.
You could almost call it a stomach bug, but researchers at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology call it an origami robot, designed to be swallowed in a pill-sized ice cube so it can deliver drugs or patch internal wounds.
Origami means folding. When the robot gets to your stomach, the body temperature aids the robot to thaw, and the robot then unfolds.
The miniature gadget is part of the growing field of soft robotics, moving machines made of flexible material that can change shape and size, making them useful for surgery and other complex environments. This robot, made mostly of sausage casing, is controlled using special joysticks and magnetic forces outside the body.
So what we have shown here is the capability of this size of a robot that can be delivered safely into a human body and can be deployed and perform some useful tasks.
That includes dislodging foreign objects and treating the resulting injuries.
Because every year, over 3,500 batteries get swallowed by children in the U.S. alone. Globally, the number is much, much larger.
The theory is that the battery and remains of the tiny device would eventually pass through the body. But this origami robot hasn't yet been tried in a human or animal. Its future still unfolding. Kathy Matheson, Associated Press.
I'm Gwen Eichel on the next News Hour, making sense of why you should be looking for work even when you have a good job. That's Thursday on the PBS News Hour.
Invasive exotic fish can wreak havoc on the ocean's ecosystem, but a scientific nonprofit has an interesting solution: eating them. Emily Driscoll brings us tonight's Sci-Tech Report.
These cockroaches are welcome in my kitchen anytime, and I hope that other kitchens will open their doors to them also. I've been called a number of things, from exotic food chef, alternative food designer. When we talk about alternative and exotic in America, it's something that is out of the normal diet for most people. It may not be exotic to a person coming from that country.
Exotic species are species that are living where they are not native. Some of them live there kind of subtly at low population levels, and some of them explode and go crazy and take over. If they explode and go crazy, they're called invasive species. At the Safina Center, we're trying to get people to have a closer relationship with the natural world. We analyze how fish are caught or otherwise get to your plate, and that's how we work with the Explorers Club.
The Explorers Club is a very unusual organization. This group of individuals has left a mark to improve society through scientific exploration. Back to Shackleton's days and Perry's days, when explorers came back and had the Explorers Club annual dinner, they came back to show others what they had found. We're dealing with the oceans this year, so the idea behind taking some invasives out, try a new food source, you'd be shocked, it's going to be delicious.
I can't think of a single fish that is a worse problem now than lionfish off the east coast of the United States.
I see them here immediately.
They have escaped from aquariums. Whatever keeps them in check in their native range is missing, and they could easily eat 24 fish in a meal. And because they're venomous, many fish would avoid attacking them.
Our lionfish are going to be a challenge for us. It's the spine, which is the venomous portion. We'll have needle stick proof gloves. We're going to give them enough temperature that it will neutralize the quill. The fillets that we use, if we need to, will be most likely broiled and then glazed with a light spice. Another one of our selections is another invasive, is an Asian carp.
Asian carp are in some of our rivers in the Midwest, and they, again, that's another fish that is in plague proportions in the rivers, and they occupy a lot of the water. They eat a lot of what's there. They outcompete native fish for food and for space.
We've never tried this before. My goal is to do sashimi first, to get this myth that all carp is an earthy aftertaste type fish. This carp is absolutely high sashimi quality. I usually try to go with the 2 out of 3 concept. If I give you 2 items you're familiar with, I hope you'll trust me on the 3rd. The whole idea of these dinners is to educate, trigger your adventurous spirit. And if we could educate people into trying other types of fish products, it would put less pressure on those fish that are in such dire straits now.
This is lionfish.
which is something
I was saying that
I saw a
they were
big
not
piece of
here.
lionfish. It's not bad, actually.
Lionfish
No?
is great. Have you tried one of these?
One of the things about eating invasive species is that we're not used to eating them. That's probably the main impediment.
What else you got here?
Oh my God.
Are you kidding?
Got everything.
Lionfish, iguana, feral hog, feral soap, woven insects were in one of those, Asian carp, catfish, python. We got them all.
It smells good. I'm gonna go get some iguana. Yeah, let's do that.
I think it will be a little bit of chicken, a little grassy. Very crunchy and squishy on the inside. It's better than I expected.
People have to get comfortable with the idea that that is good food to eat. Because we have so depleted so many of the fish populations of the world, and with 7 billion people and climbing, our pressure is just increasing and increasing. So we're either going to completely demolish the ocean, or we're going to try to do some things a little bit better.
How was it? Spicy?
You can see more stories like that one on SciTech Now, Sundays at 5:30 right here on KPBS. Here's a look at what we're working on for tomorrow in the KPBS newsroom. On Midday Edition, we give you the latest on San Diego's event calendar. We talk about the Art of Elan, a chamber of music group performing this weekend. That's tomorrow on KPBS Radio. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thanks for joining us. Have a great night.